There are moments when something earth-shattering occurs, and yet the world carries on as if nothing happened. The streetlights still blink, the news still lies, and people smile at their neighbors while inside they're being undone. Something massive just happened. And though the world may not announce it, they're crying behind closed doors. The hidden cost of transformation is rarely spoken of in public. It is not broadcasted on stages, nor written on the smiling faces of those who have emerged seemingly victorious. Yet it is very real and deeply felt. Transformation, true transformation, always exacts a toll. It does not come dressed in comfort or arrive on wings of ease. It comes like a storm in the night, shaking the very foundation on which we have built our identities. And in this shaking, in this sacred undoing, there is grief, quiet, haunting grief, the kind of sorrow that does not wail, but whispers in the dead of night. When something massive takes place, when the scales fall from eyes, when truth hits with the full weight of its glory, it rarely results in laughter first. The initial fruit is often pain. We must not be deceived by the silence of those around us. Silence is not always peace. It is sometimes mourning too deep for words. People often expect transformation to look like applause, but in reality, it often begins in anguish. Something massive may have just happened in your life, in your spirit, or in the unseen places of society, and no one claps. Instead, doors close, voices fall silent, and people vanish, not because you failed, but because your transformation disrupted their illusions. Change shakes more than just your own soul. It unsettled everyone who had grown comfortable with the former version of you. And so behind those closed doors, they cry. Not always because they hate you, but because what your transformation represents demands they examine their own lives. And many are not ready to do so. Their tears are not just about you, they're about themselves, about the life they constructed around false securities, about the lies they embraced for so long they forgot they were lies. When you change, you hold up a mirror, and some can't bear to look into it. The cost of transformation is that you will outgrow rooms you once called home. You will lose the applause of those who only ever celebrated your stagnation. You will feel loneliness in its rawest form, not because you are unloved, but because you are no longer understood. When something massive shifts inside of you, you begin to see how others wear masks of composure while inwardly drowning. Their laughter grows louder when truth draws near, as if volume can silence the conviction of the soul. But behind the laughter, behind the smiles, behind the indifference, they weep. The weight of what they know they must face, but still delay, is a burden they carry into sleepless nights and distracted days. And you, the one who dared to change, must walk on, grieving not only your own death to what once was, but also grieving for them, those who cannot yet face what must die in themselves. This is the hidden cost of transformation, knowing you cannot unsee what you now see. Knowing that your growth has placed you at odds with the comfortable falsehoods of others. Knowing that your joy will sometimes provoke their sorrow, not because joy is evil, but because it highlights their absence of it. Transformation always exposes something, sometimes in you and sometimes in those around you, and exposure is never painless. It's not meant to destroy, but it often feels like destruction. It is, in fact, the pruning before the blooming, the cleansing before the filling, the tearing down before the building up. So when you sense that something massive has just occurred, when you feel the winds of change tearing through your familiar structures, remember this: you are not being punished, you are being purified. The closed doors, the quiet sobs on the other side, the avoidance, the distance, these are not signs of failure. They are the sounds of transformation doing its sacred work. And though it costs more than you imagined, it gives more than you dreamed. You are not alone in this strange season of silent pain and secret progress. You are simply walking the narrow road of those who choose truth over comfort. And though the cost is hidden, the reward is eternal. Truth has a way of piercing through the layers we build around ourselves, and when it does, it evokes something deeper than mere discomfort. It stirs the soul into tears, These are not the tears of weakness, nor are they always visible. They often fall in silence, behind closed doors, in the solitude of moments where appearances can no longer shield the heart from what it knows to be true. When truth comes, it does not always arrive gently. It arrives with a holy weight, a presence that demands attention. It does not argue or plead, it simply stands there, undeniable, unshaken, and in its presence, even the strongest are brought low. People cry not always because of loss or pain in the physical sense, but because truth unmasks them. It shows them who they are, and more painfully, who they are not. And for many, that realization is too much to bear in public. So they withdraw. They weep where no one can see. They cry behind closed doors. There is something terrifying about truth, especially when it confronts us in the places we have spent years decorating with denial. We build lives around illusions, around comfort, around narratives we repeat until they become a kind of gospel to us. But when truth enters, it does not honor these falsehoods. It burns them. It lays waste to all the make-believe we've built, and what remains is something raw, something honest, something that demands a response, and that response is often weeping, not of the eyes alone, but of the soul. People may not express it in front of others. They may keep smiling, keep talking, keep pretending, but in the quiet places, in their thoughts, in the echoing chambers of the heart, they cry. Because deep down, they know something has been revealed that cannot be hidden again. When something massive happens, something that pulls back the veil and exposes truth, it becomes a reckoning moment. And reckoning always brings tears. It forces people to confront what they've avoided, what they've justified, and what they've dismissed. And those confrontations don't happen in the crowd. They happen alone, behind the doors that are closed to the world, but wide open to heaven. Behind those doors, people who once seemed unshakable are trembling. People who spoke with confidence are now silent. People who led with pride are now humbled, not because someone shouted at them, but because truth whispered, and that whisper was louder than any voice they've ever heard. That is the nature of truth. It does not need to argue, it only needs to appear. And when it does, the impact is not always seen outwardly. Some may think nothing has changed, but they do not see the tears on pillows, the sudden quietness in conversations, the long stares into the distance. These are signs of hearts wrestling with truth. These are the invisible tremors of souls being shaken, and these tears, though hidden, are sacred. They mean that something inside is shifting, even if pride keeps the outside still. Do not be fooled by faces that seem unfazed. Do not assume silence means peace. Some of the greatest storms happen behind the eyes, where truth is wrestling down lies that have long ruled the soul. Tears provoked by truth are not tears of despair. They are the beginning of awakening. They mean the soul is alive, still capable of responding, still tender enough to be moved. These tears are not defeat. They are evidence that God is working, that something deeper than logic, deeper than emotion, is unfolding in the unseen. People weep not because they are weak, but because the truth has found them where they thought they could not be reached. And when it does, it breaks through every defense with gentle force. It calls them back to reality. It invites them to start again. But first, it allows them to cry, to grieve the false self, to mourn what was never real, to let go of the lie so they can embrace what is true. So if you find them weeping behind closed doors, do not judge them. If you are the one weeping, do not despise your tears. They are not signs of failure. They are signs that truth has done what truth always does. It has revealed, it has pierced, it has awakened. And though it may break your heart, it will also rebuild it, stronger, freer, cleaner than before. Let the tears fall. Let them cleanse. Let them prepare you for the light that follows. Victory is not always loud. In fact, the most significant and lasting victories often happen in silence, away from the crowd, beyond the applause, and hidden from the eyes of the world. We live in a time when noise is mistaken for power, where the loudest voices are assumed to be the most influential, and where the most visible achievements are celebrated as the greatest. But the truth is, real victory is often quiet. It moves like a gentle current beneath the surface, reshaping everything without drawing attention to itself. It is not born in public, but in private. It does not boast, it does not parade, it simply exists, calm, steady, and unshakable. There is a kind of strength that does not need to be seen to be real. It does not crave validation. It does not need a crowd to affirm its existence. That kind of strength is forged in the hidden places, in prayer, in discipline, in obedience, when no one is watching. No one is watching. And when the moment of transformation comes, when the battle is finally won, there is no need for fanfare. The soul knows, God knows, and that is enough. This quiet victory is not accidental, it is divine. It is the kind of victory that shifts the entire course of your life, not with a shout, but with a whisper. It does not come with trumpets, but with tears. It does not seek to be known. It seeks to be true. Those who are truly victorious often look ordinary to the world. They walk among others unnoticed, yet they carry within them a peace that cannot be disturbed. Their victory is internal first. It is the mastery of their own thoughts, the conquering of fear, the quiet overcoming of temptation, the refusal to be bitter when wronged, the decision to forgive even when it hurts. These are not moments that trend on social media. They are not the kinds of things that earn applause, but they are victories of the highest order. And they change everything. They change how a person sees, how they respond, how they live. These victories are sacred, not showy. And they are the ones that last. The world may never know the full extent of what you've overcome. It may never understand the depth of your battles. It may never see the nights you wept, the prayers you whispered, the choices you made when no one else believed in you. But heaven saw. Heaven marked every moment. And heaven celebrates the quiet victories that go unnoticed by the world. The angels do not cheer for the loudest voice. They rejoice over the humblest heart that chooses light over darkness, love over hate, faith over fear. There is a celebration in the unseen that is far more meaningful than any earthly recognition. And it belongs to those who have won battles in secret. You may think you have nothing to show for your struggle because there is no applause, no visible sign of your triumph. But the absence of noise does not mean the absence of glory. In fact, the glory of quiet victory is often greater than anything that could be shouted from a stage. Because it was costly, because it was private, because it was real. True victory is not measured by the reaction of others, but by the transformation within. It is the calm after the storm, the stillness of a soul finally at peace, the strength to carry on with grace. So when you see no celebration, no applause, no recognition, do not be disheartened. Let the silence be your sanctuary. Let it remind you that you are not living for the eyes of others. Let it anchor you in the truth that what is unseen is often more powerful than what is seen. Victory, real victory, is not about who notices, it's about who you've become. It's about knowing that you stood firm, that you did not bow, that you overcame the odds when everything inside you wanted to quit. And in that quiet moment, when the battle is over and no one is cheering, remember this. You are still standing. That is your victory. You are still kind. That is your victory. You still believe. That is your victory. And even if no one sees it, even if no one claps, you have triumphed. And nothing in all the world can take that away. God often does his most powerful work in the places no one can see. The world measures movement by what it can observe. Crowds, headlines, noise, applause. But heaven operates in a far more mysterious and sacred rhythm. When people are crying behind closed doors, when their pride collapses and their defenses begin to crack, it is not merely a moment of emotional weakness. It is often the evidence that God is at work. What looks like breakdown is often breakthrough in disguise. What appears to be a fall may, in fact, be the beginning of a rising that only grace can orchestrate. When everything feels still on the surface, when silence hangs heavy in the air, God is not absent. He is present in the shadows, moving with precision, rearranging hearts, stripping away what is false, and preparing the soul for transformation. We often expect God's intervention to be loud, sudden, and impossible to ignore. But his greatest miracles are frequently hidden. He doesn't always come with thunder and fire. Sometimes he comes like dew in the early morning, quiet, gentle, and unnoticed by those not paying attention. Behind those closed doors, where tears fall freely and pride begins to lose its grip, God is building something. He is not in a rush. He is not impressed by outward appearances. He is deeply committed to the work of the heart, and that kind of work is slow, surgical, and intimate. When someone begins to cry behind closed doors, it is often because their soul has come into contact with a truth too powerful to dismiss. And in that contact, the Spirit begins his work, not with condemnation, but with compassion. There is a divine kindness in how God undoes us. He doesn't break us to leave us broken. He breaks us to make us whole. The process is painful, yes. It can feel like everything is falling apart, but what is really happening is the dismantling of what was never meant to last. God tears down lies that have ruled for years. He exposes the foundations that were built on fear and replaces them with truth. And all of this happens in secret. No spotlight, no announcements, no celebration, just a person alone with their pain being met by a God who refuses to leave them there. That is where the holy work is done, in silence, in solitude, in surrender. We must not overlook what happens behind closed doors. Just because it isn't visible doesn't mean it isn't sacred. In fact, the most sacred things are rarely public. God honors what happens in secret because it is there that motives are purified and pride is stripped away. It is there that people stop performing and start listening. It is there that masks fall off and real conversations with heaven begin. When someone is weeping behind the scenes, it may be the first time they have truly prayed in years. It may be the moment their heart finally opens to grace, to forgiveness, to freedom. And that moment, though hidden, echoes in eternity. God does not need a crowd to move. He needs a willing heart. And often, the most willing hearts are found in the quiet aftermath of failure or despair. He meets people not in their strength, but in their weakness. Not in their achievements, but in their desperation. He sees the tears that no one else sees. He hears the prayers that are too broken to be spoken aloud. And in response, he does not shame, he does not accuse, he begins to heal. What the world calls defeat, God often calls preparation. What the world sees as falling apart, God sees as being rebuilt. So do not despise the unseen moments. Do not overlook the value of what happens in the privacy of pain. God uses these moments to bring about the kind of change that cannot be reversed. The kind of change that doesn't just alter behavior, but reshapes identity. He works behind the scenes so that when the time is right, the fruit will appear, strong, steady, and rooted in truth. The tears cried behind closed doors may water the soil for a harvest that has eternal significance. And when that harvest comes, it won't matter that no one saw the struggle. What will matter is that God saw it, God used it, and God redeemed it. Do not envy the applause. Applause is fleeting, often given not to the worthy but to the visible. It is the sound of approval from those who do not see the full story, who cheer based on surface impressions and temporary thrills. But beneath many of the claps and praises lies a hollow core. There are people who seem to thrive under the lights, whose names are celebrated and whose lives appear perfect, yet behind closed doors they are falling apart. Their laughter is loud, but their hearts are aching. Their success is praised, but their souls are starving. To envy such applause is to desire a shadow, not substance. The applause of the crowd cannot heal a wounded spirit, cannot replace peace, cannot undo regret. It is a sound that fades as quickly as it comes, and those who live for it find themselves constantly chasing the next moment of affirmation. Never truly satisfied, there is a profound danger in measuring your worth by the attention you receive. When applause becomes your compass, you will turn away from the path of truth to follow the path of approval. and that path, while it may look glorious for a time, always leads to emptiness. The people crying behind closed doors are often those who built their lives around applause, who shaped their identity by what others thought of them, who compromised their convictions just to remain in favor with the crowd. But the crowd is never loyal. It lifts up today and forgets tomorrow. It adores what entertains and ignores what convicts. The person who is praised for speaking boldly will be criticized the next day for speaking truthfully. The applause can turn into accusation without warning. That is why the fall of others is never your triumph. It is not a time to celebrate or gloat, but a time to reflect and remember what truly matters. It is a sobering reminder that external success means nothing if the soul is crumbling. The applause that once filled them with pride is now a distant memory, replaced by the silence of regret. Their tears are real, not because they didn't achieve something, but because what they achieved cost them more than they expected. Maybe it cost them their integrity. Maybe it cost them their peace. Maybe it cost them their relationship with God. And now, in the quiet moments when no one is watching, they see the price clearly. They cry not just for what they've lost, but for who they've become. To envy them is to misunderstand the whole picture. What you see is not the whole truth. Their polished image hides a private pain. Their public influence masks a personal instability. You may desire their platform, but you do not know their prison. You may admire their influence, but you do not feel their isolation. And so wisdom calls you to step back, to lift your eyes from the crowd, and to remember that your value does not come from applause, it comes from your Creator. You are not here to perform. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be faithful. The applause may never come. You may walk in obedience without recognition, without praise, without popularity. But you will walk in peace. You will sleep without regret. You will grow in strength because your roots go deep into truth, not shallow into approval. And when storms come, and they always come, you will stand. You will not fall like those whose foundation was applause. You will not weep behind closed doors because your soul is not built on shifting opinions. You will walk with the quiet confidence of one who knows they are seen by God, approved by God, and sustained by God. So let others chase the applause if they must. Let them build their castles in the air. You stay grounded. You walk in integrity. You choose the narrow way even when it is lonely. Because in the end, it is not the noise of the crowd that will matter. It is the quiet voice of God saying, "Well done." And that is the only affirmation worth living for. Let your rise be rooted in integrity, for elevation without character is the most dangerous kind of success. When you ascend without a firm foundation, you may gain height but lose direction. The world is full of people who rose quickly and fell even faster, not because they lacked talent, but because they lacked truth. Their ascent was built on image, not identity, on manipulation, not meaning. And when the pressure of the spotlight revealed the cracks beneath, everything they built came crashing down. This is why integrity matters, not as a moral accessory, but as the very soil from which lasting greatness grows. Without it, every achievement becomes a risk, every platform a trap, every compliment a seduction. But with it, your rise becomes more than just visible success. It becomes eternal significance. There is something deeply sacred about a person who chooses to grow the right way. Not by cutting corners, not by pretending to be more than they are, not by silencing conviction to win favor, but by staying true to who they are, even when it costs them. These are the people who may be slow to rise in the eyes of the world, but in the eyes of God, they are being prepared for something far greater. Their character is being refined in the shadows. Their hearts are being tested in obscurity. And when the time comes for them to rise, they will not be shaken by applause nor undone by criticism. They will rise with integrity beneath their feet and humility in their hands. You must not let the downfall of others become your entertainment. When someone falls, it may seem like justice or vindication, but it is also a warning. It is a mirror. It is a moment to ask yourself, what am I building my life upon? Am I seeking to be known or seeking to be true? Am I living for the moment or preparing for eternity? These are not questions for the proud, but for the wise. Because integrity does not always show itself in public decisions. It reveals itself in private ones. It's in how you speak when no one is listening, how you treat others when they have nothing to offer you, how you act when there's no reward for doing the right thing. Those are the bricks that build a life that lasts. And those are the things God sees, honors, and uses. Integrity is costly. It will ask you to say no when others are saying yes. It will ask you to stay silent when you could easily defend yourself. It will ask you to serve when no one says thank you, to forgive when you have every right to be angry, to tell the truth when a lie would make everything easier. And yet, every time you choose integrity, you choose freedom, you choose peace, you choose to walk in step with something far greater than popularity. You walk with purpose, because the path of integrity may be narrow, but it is sure. It may be lonely at times, but it is filled with strength. It may cost you in the short term, but it protects you in the long term. Many people fall, not because they lacked ability, but because they rose too quickly without the inner strength to sustain the outer pressure. They learned how to impress, but not how to endure. They were skilled in performance, but shallow in principle. So when storms came, and they always do, they collapsed. That is not the kind of rise you want. That is not the kind of legacy you want to leave. Build slow if you must, but build right. Let your rise be hidden for a season if it must, but let it be holy. What God prepares in private, He protects in public. And when your life is rooted in integrity, you will not need to fear exposure, because there will be nothing hidden to fear. In a world chasing fast success and temporary applause, be the one who chooses a deeper way. Let integrity be your anchor when the tide of public opinion shifts. Let it be your compass when opportunities tempt you to compromise. Let it be your guard when temptation whispers false promises. Because in the end, integrity is not just about how high you rise, but how well you stand when you get there. And when the moment of testing comes, as it always does, it will not be your title that saves you. It will be your truth. So build your rise on what cannot be shaken. Build it on integrity.